is people talk about it a lot. So what is Cabal hell? Well, let's consult the dictionary. The dictionary says, it is the feeling of powerlessness one feels when Cabal does not do what you wanted, and you feel anger and frustration. And I should probably put up one of those meme slides of, ah! Right, that's what so, okay, it's not a useful definition, and it's, in the sense it's not precise, right? It doesn't classify problems and whatever. So I want to, before we have a discussion that might touch on these things, I want to introduce a little bit more precision into this kind of anger that we have here. So this is a map of hell. Unfortunately, okay, the colors aren't quite what I was hoping, but over on the left-hand side, we've got the kind of green, sunny uplands, and then over on there, there's kind of the sulfurous pits. So, okay, let's classify, this is classifying the symptoms of Cabal hell, okay? Because many people call different things that they encounter, they all call them, dependency hell or Cabal hell. So, okay, so the major classification is there is a solution, there is not a solution. What do I mean by that is that a solver, when looking at all those constraints in your Cabal files of versions and version ranges, can it find a solution to the, you said, please install these things, and can it find a solution that can consistently install those or not? So that's the major classification left and right here. Within that, we've got the green, sunny, it just works. There's also a little green patch over there as well, which is that there isn't a solution, but you never expected one. You just installed GHC head 8, and you don't expect it to work with all your things. You run the solver to tell you what you should fix, to what you should bash, to what you should change to make it work. So, but within that, you've got okay. On the there is no solution side, there is no solution, but you expected there to be one. You really hoped there would be one, and the solver just says no. Okay. Then on the left-hand side, we've got breaking reinstallations. Everyone has seen that, or similar to that is I install two things and then independently I install this and then I install that and then I run GHCI, but now I get type errors when using things from these two packages. Let's jump on to what the reasons for these problems are, because that's more illuminating, I think. The breaking reinstallations is due to this single instance restriction we have in GHC. Currently, well, it's just been lifted in version 7, but we're not yet taking advantage of that. That is the problem, that you can't have multiple instances of the same version of the same package installed at once. You can only have one instance, and that causes, when I install this and then later install that, and they require different instances of something down there, I've broken one when I install the other. And there's a chunk in the middle here that spans the solution-no solution boundary, which is when the constraints in your Cabal file are just wrong. They do not accurately reflect what the code does. So on one side, that causes the unnecessary solver failure. The solver says no, but it could have worked if we picked something and ignored the solver. On the other side, the solver said, yeah, it's fine, but actually when you compile it, it doesn't work. It doesn't actually compile. So in both cases, the constraints are wrong. There's a big chunk in the middle, which is these inconsistent environments. I install two things. My environment is inconsistent because I didn't pick the same versions of some common thing. On the other side, the problem is simply that there isn't a solution. This package requires some version, and this other package requires a different version. There's just no way to... you have to change one of these packages to so that they can both use the same versions of something. Okay, so those are the problems and what they're caused by. I also want to show how that relates to the major solutions. So the major solutions covered across... so the key point here is that there isn't like one silver bullet. There isn't one solution that does everything. There are a number of solutions, and there's two really important ones that cover the vast majority of the problems that we encounter. And those are basically what Debian does and what Nix does. What Debian does is it has a whole bunch of people who hammer on packages until they all use consistent versions of everything. And that's great, and that covers a whole bunch of use cases. But it only covers things within that environment that has been made safe. Right? It doesn't help you once you move outside of that, the versions that Debian have picked for you. On the other hand, you've got Nix, which solves all of the breaking reinstallation problems, all of the inconsistent environment problems, and it can to some degree help you in the situation where there were constraints that didn't work because you can isolate them and do them separately. But the key point is that these things overlap, but not completely. and we really need both. So my view is that we need to embrace both of these major solutions and implement them fully in our tools and our infrastructure. The Nix-style things and the sort of Debian curated collection style things. So, for example, what does it mean to embrace these properly? It means do it in the tools like Cabal, Stack, and to do things like distribute package collections via Hackage. Right? Hackage is our central point for distributing packages. Let's also distribute collections that way. And then it's nice to have is some of the other more minor solutions. I want to show you one of them because people of you who were not at the Implementers Workshop on Monday might not have seen this tool before. This is one of the sort of slightly more minor solutions. It's dealing with the problem of the constraints being wrong. So this is the Hackage Matrix Builder tool, which you can find at matrix.hackage.haskell.org. And it shows you, this matrix is looking at all the different versions of Warp in this example, and all the versions of GHC, and this is all green, and this is beautiful. What this means is that the constraints in this Cabal file and all the versions are right? They accurately say when it does and does not work. And then if you compare it to another one, where the constraints are wrong, then it looks like this. So this is a lovely tool for authors to get their constraints right, or for other people to fix them up later. So I just wanted to advertise that because it's a really lovely tool. And now that is it. I will stop.
So Gershom is up next, and then we'll have time for questions for both speakers.
So this is last minute. I only have one slide, and Duncan's talk was a perfect lead-in. Duncan talked about sort of the long-range issues and the glorious future of Nixness in Cabal that we're working towards. And he also talked about there's two solution spaces, one of the, right, and so what we're doing now, I'm talking about the short-range kludge, right? And the short-range kludge is, this is what's going to happen in the next Haskell platform release, which is now going to be coinciding almost on the nose with the GHC releases. So if GHC 7.12 lands in around January, as we're hoping, I was told, then the next platform will land around January, and this is what it will do. Based on this message, improving the Get Haskell experience with Mark Letzner, who wishes he could be here. He's Mr. Platform, and Michael Soyman, who's Mr. Stack, among other things, and also wishes he could be here, collaborated together on a proposal. And these are the immediate future things. If people don't know what MinGHC is, it bundles more of MSys with GHC. So on Windows, that means that you can now build network, which used to be a real pain. They're hoping you'll be able to build OpenGL and all of that stuff on Windows directly. So that's going to get incorporated. We will bundle the Stack tool as well as the Cabal tool, and you will be able to choose the Stack model of how to deal, which is the more, in a sense, Debian curated like that works with Stackage. You will be able to use Cabal, which is developing towards the next model, but will attempt to cover other things as well. And they will ideally work together pretty well, actually. So, but it will give this all to users. So this is, you get Haskell, you don't know what it is. You have one brand. Get Haskell. Okay, download Haskell platform. It has both tools. It has everything. It has, and it will be minimal because now that we can build these packages better, especially with MinGHC, we don't bundle the whole platform. You don't get the 200 megs. You're going to get just the core GHC, and it'll be able to pull everything in on demand, which a lot of people want. We are going to do a little work to get a 4-layer DB scheme so that the Cabal and Stackage notions line up. And they both have this, 3 means I have 3 left? Yes, great, perfect. And they have an intermediate way to interact. So that you sort of get an additional layer for the distro level, so to speak, and you can swap between them, and then users below that and sandboxes below that. So Resolver platform goes in the middle. And then I said, so these are the steps. Number 5 is your help. Mark said he is quite busy at work, which is also why he cannot join us, but he's been doing great work. He wants people who are expert in MSys and Windows and like to hack on Windows builds and linking and things that make me cry. And he wants them to help him to be confident that they're really nailing this right, because there are a lot of fiddly bits. And that MinGHC build doesn't always work. For some people it's great. For some of us it causes problems. There are fiddly Windows bits. Anyone who's into that sort of thing, please talk to Mark. And anyone who wants to help with sort of putting together, especially into the Cabal side, this extra 4-layer scheme and wants to be a Cabal hacker to get those that extra database layer and to test out how this stuff works together and likes to bash on this, talk to Mark or talk to me, and I'll put you in touch with Mark. And those are the places we're looking for help. And if all goes well, success, by January 2016, we will have Stack and the platform working together, a single one-stop shop. The Haskell platform brand will be the way for whatever we need to do. That is going to work for everyone. That's the goal, and we want to all work together to have a goal where there's one way, so it works for everyone out of the box, even if they don't know, and especially if they don't know what they're doing. So that's just so you all know.
So we have plenty of time for questions, and feel free to ask questions about the ecosystem in general, right? This isn't just questions for the speaker, but we're focusing on the Haskell ecosystem.
So this is a bit of a Stack question. I like to play around with GHCI a lot. And I feel like Stack is really well suited for people who already know everything that they need to about their dependencies and have a Cabal file and are making a big project. Not so good for, ooh, I want to download that package and see what it does. And so I'm worried about integrating that too tightly with the platform and sort of saying this is the way to go, because then you can't play around. Maybe I'm just using Stack poorly.
So we're bundling both, right? Both are still available, and Cabal supports that workflow, right? The workflow of you stick on your slides, Cabal install a library, and then GHCI, and there you have it. And so Stack is focused on this sort of application workflow. You know, I have an application and I want to build that, and not so much on the, as you were saying, kind of, I just want to play around with the library I just installed. So Cabal, I hope that Cabal will improve for applications as well, but I want it to support both of those workflows.
The one thing I'd add is I'm not a Stack expert. We have people like Michael Sloan here who have really worked on the tool and are into it. And I also want to say they are attempting to grow and cover more cases as well. So it is like we're going to have these two things, and they're going to start maybe, you know, there's parts where they're going to try to both do some of the same things in different ways, and but they're also aware of it and want it to do that way too. But the goal is not that you will be forced into one or the other way, but that we'll have the space to explore in different ways and compare the approaches and make them all available to people at once. So this is not taking anything away. It's only giving more.
I guess I understood that, but recent emails from Mark about integrating Stack into the platform made me feel like Stack was going to be sort of the first stop that's recommended. So I would sort of maybe want to sketch that out in a prominent place for new users.
Once we bundle both, the issue of how we describe the differences between the two will lead to many discussions.
I'm sure.
Let's leave it at that.
Thanks.
So I had a question for Duncan. You mentioned a Nix-style package management for Cabal. Is that something which is actually on the cards?
I have a demo of it on my laptop right here.
Oh, awesome.
So here we are. Let's look at my...
I believe you.
Yeah, go on. Next question.
Is there a time frame for releasing it?
There's my Nix-style store under my Cabal home directory. There you go.
But the question is, when is it
yes. It'll be a bit longer.
Sure.
I don't know yet.
Okay, great, thanks.
But I should also point out that we had a Summer of Code student working on Nix-style stuff as well, and he's got a beta out right now. It does some slightly different things to what I've got here, but he wants you to test that beta out right now. So there are things out there that you can test.
Awesome.
I hope so. So we're also organising a hackathon, and we really want people to contribute to this and help us out. It has to be it is a community project, and we want everyone's assistance.
Yeah. Thanks, Duncan. And thank you both for your amazing work. This is a different sort of comment, since it's all about future of Haskell and there might be some interested people here. It's sort of a call for assistance. There's a unsung hero within GHC, which is actually a body of C code. It is the linker within GHC. And we're facing some issues right now with what the future of the linker should be, especially with regard to dynamic linking on various platforms. So if there's anyone here who has any interest in collaborating or assisting with deciding what that future should be or helping with that code, please come see me. And I will be happy to put you in touch with others who are working on this.
Can I quickly add something to the previous one? You were thanking me for hard work, but I would really like to emphasize that I am not actually Mr. Cabal, right? I mean, I'm sort of the representative here at the conference, but there are several maintainers and there's a big community of people, and it's not me, right? I am not like, I'm not the Simon PJ of Cabal, okay? I'm one amongst many, and the credit spreads wide, and you don't have to pass it through me to get your changes into Cabal.
Ditto here. I'm just the mouthpiece for other people who couldn't be here.
So popping the stack to the stack question. So I would say that one of the big differences between Cabal and Stack is that Stack we can look retrospectively and say people always do like Cabal configure -- user and whatnot. You do build and you do install and such. Or maybe you have to init your sandbox, for example. With Stack we can say that we will do these default correct things and do them for you. So if you do stack install, it's going to be in a sandbox, use it locally, and not going to modify your package, your global package database. So I feel like that's I'm not sure why, I think it is actually ideal for playing around with things, because if, let's say, a package author or a project does provide a stack YAML file, fairly deterministically, you're going to be able to build that project and load it up in the REPL. Well, the REPL bit is a little tricky, but hopefully that will be more consistent with build in the future. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's built in. And hopefully IDE support coming soon too.
Yeah, I mean, Stack certainly has optimized like the workflow. Cabal sometimes you require to say multiple steps, and Stack is nicely done. So you just have to say build, and it does everything. And that's absolutely, I mean, that's the way we want to go for all of these tools. And I hope the Cabal install will move in that direction as well.
So one more question?
Yeah, just a much more basic level question. Say for a newbie who may not be able to make any sort of meaningful contribution for several months, where do I find you guys once IRC channels, mailing lists, and stuff?
All of the above. The Haskell community is everywhere, and if you say I need help with Haskell, they will descend upon you like locusts. So.
Excellent. Yeah.
So, I mean, a good place to start is the Haskell.org homepage, the Haskell IRC channel and Freenode, and from there people will be able to point you in lots of different directions. There are dedicated mailing lists and IRC channels, but if you just go to Haskell IRC, people will point you in the right direction. There's, for example, there's a dedicated one for GHC, there's a dedicated one for Hackage and Cabal, mailing list and IRC channels and other support places.
Great. So that concludes our mini session. So let's thank the speakers again. I especially appreciate the fact that they put together these presentations at such short notice. So the next mini session is the future of Haskell, the language. And our first speaker is Nikki Vizou.